Hi everyone. Today we have Sina Shahandeh from Akopi here with us, and he'll be walking us through how to run ML models on the edge.
My name is Sina Shahandeh, and I'm a VP of Data Science at Ecobi. I just want to talk about a bit more about these topics of how to run ML models at the edge, how to do experimentation for ML model at the edge, and what's the challenges of the edge-based systems versus the cloud. I'm sure you're more familiar with the cloud systems, and hopefully you would get something interesting out of this talk. So if you look at the a life cycle management of this of a training model, you have some sort of like a data collection, ingesting data, training model, evaluation of models, and then you deploy the models to the cloud. The area of ML engineering is quite extensive and emerging fields. Lots of questions around it. Now, I think when it becomes more complicated is the edge, and you see edge versus cloud. You see here a device. This camera has a CPU of as strong as a tablet, so we're talking about a computer. A small computer, ARM-based CPU, and it can do it sees something. It can do an object classification, for example, here, image classification as a studio couch, right? So deployment of these algorithms to the edge is of interest, and they sometimes what we do is that the workflow is really to train an algorithm on the cloud. For example, your object detection, you might train it with large data sets, and then deploy them to the edge. Now, I don't want to go through the details of like how the deployment works. It is really mostly a firmware update. But the challenge becomes what do you want to do for the experimentation. So if you're familiar with the model development for the cloud, machine learning development, you have a idea that this is a bit different than software development, and that's about adding the scientific methodology for that product development. So you're going to create a question: can this model works, or how this particular hypothesis that you have, and you form a hypothesis. You would data collection, develop a solution, maybe in Jupyter Notebook, and then you run experiments. But then, how can we run experiments to the edge? So the workflow that we have is around data collection, and the key part of this is this idea that we have deploy a model using an experiment runner. So I'm going to show you a particular architecture here that we deploy for our device. Actually, we build it at the beginning. So this is our cloud, and here is, imagine this big box is a CPU, is a computer on the edge. We have here thermostat IDTM. Think about it as just all the software running thermostat functions, and also the firmware update modules. And then you have this. We actually had to build a system called Experiment Runner, and this is a little lightweight module in which runs all the time and has the API connections with the actual firmware. And then from the cloud, you can send an executable, which would be basically these are the compile C++ binaries that would run or embed that ML model and run them on devices, be able to extract data and then send them back to the cloud. So this capability, you can actually and then you have a backend, Experiment Runner backend, which manages which device has what algorithm, what's the data that's coming from it, and create that pipeline. So you would see a workflow that is more like this, where this is your traditional basically ML ops, data sets, lifecycle management, and then the models. But these models, so what we have is that we have a situation where we train a million devices that we have. We have actually 2 million thermostats now in the field. If you have 2 million devices, we have 2 million models. They're coming from telemetry data. Build 2 million unique model for these devices, and then you send them to this ER backend, Experiment Runner backend, send them to the device using the Experiment Runner, and then your product squads, product teams would work on these ML models. But we have a different team on a data platform which manages the lifecycle management of models, and then you have an Experiment Runner platform which manages experimentation specifically on the firmware. Thank you very much. That is kind of an overview of this topic.
Thank you so much, Sina. That was an extremely informative presentation.